going to try to tell you what my memoir is about. It's about, I actually started keeping a diary during the peak of the COVID lockdowns. And it was an effort to kind of get, like, I was so lonely that I kind of just started talking to myself, and I figured, well, I'm going to be trapped here anyway. I might as well just write a book. And I couldn't formulate a complete narrative, like a linear narrative, because my mind was too, I would have too much, like, dissociation happening to really remember what I was writing from day to day. So I would just kind of black out and then try to figure out what to write in the moment. So it was all very like diary entry, and I would write exactly what was happening from day to day. Maybe I just repeated myself because, you know, that happens. But it was, it ended up turning into an actually pretty cohesive story. And especially talking about the lockdowns and the effects of COVID on me in what was happening at that time, which was really extreme. And so I wrote for 3 months. I wrote for 3 months about this. So I kept a diary for 3 months, and and then eventually I showed it to my friend who was a writer, and she really liked it, and I think I've mentioned that already. And so she read it, and she told me, because I had been a victim of human trafficking in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, and I had written a whole other book about that. And the book, I'm scared I've talked about this already and I don't remember, but whatever. I guess repetition is king. And so I wrote this whole other book, but the person who I showed it to, I had gone to a writing convention to try to develop it into an actual book, because I didn't really know how. And the person I showed it to, she kind of suggested that it was unreadable. At least that's how I interpreted what she said. And I think when you're in those fragile beginning stages of writing, it's really important to have somebody support you. And so she told me that, so I ended up just shelving that book, thinking it's unreadable. And then when Kate Story asked me to write more about the human trafficking stuff, I had this whole other book I had written. And so what I did was go to the book that I had written previously, which was very episodic. I had written just like sections of the story without, like, to me, I don't know, it worked really well to take these episodes that I had written and put them intersperse them into the memoir, into the diary that I had kept, because it kind of showed me 20 years earlier and then flipping to 20 years later where this COVID lockdowns were happening, and kind of where I was and what was happening, and how I had, you know, progressed in my life from this time. And I thought that it was actually I thought that it worked really well. And I thought of it, the way I wrote it, and when I was writing it, I thought of it like 1001 Arabian Nights, where you tell all these stories, or the narrator tells all these stories off of this one long, like this one sort of generative story. And that's how I decided to tell it. And I'm sorry, that was a mistake. But yeah, so that's how I decided to tell it. And I don't know if that makes sense. And one of the problems is when I'm speaking on screen, I tend to dissociate and forget what I'm saying. And I don't know if that's from the dissociative identity disorder, or if it's just from me, just, you know, being a human being and not being used to talking on TikTok. But anyway, so that is it. That's about almost 5 minutes now, so I'm going to save more for later.